Good morning. Thank you for joining today's HIA-LI Manufacturing and International Trade Committee meeting. My name is Kevin Deveci, and I am a co-chair of Manufacturing Committee with my colleague Ron Lowland. He is also online today. He joined us. Let's start with some information about our committee as well as HIA-LI, and we'll be talking about today cybersecurity and ISO 27000 compliance, basically in the manufacturing and business environment. As you may know, our committee meets at least once a month, second Wednesday of every month, and we facilitate meetings to share educational information for manufacturers as well as business professionals in our region. Today also, that's how we designed the meeting, to talk about cybersecurity, which is critical nowadays, very important subject for all of us. And as you know, we have been organizing many different events, and we had different panels and different experts. We talk about international trade, we talk about manufacturing practices, as well as we talk about, for example, last month we talked about global markets and how we can find new international markets in this competitive marketplace. So what we try to do is we facilitate these meetings to help manufacturers learn about what is available in the marketplace, what type of resources are available. Cannabis actually was another subject, for example, that we focused on previously, and it's still important for New York area since it's something very new for all of us. And also we address the technology also in the manufacturing environment. Last month actually we took about an hour to talk about what type of tools are available on a federal level as well as the state level, for example, in terms of finding new markets and making market research and learning about what is available in other markets in terms of business opportunities. So that was actually also very educational and helpful based on the feedback that we get from you. We have a LinkedIn page, as you know, and you can join our LinkedIn page and get the latest news about our committee, as well as you can post your companies, services, and activities as well to let everyone know. All right, great. So let's talk about what is coming up in HIA-LI, right? So for that, we like to hear from Haley and see what is coming. The most important event, I believe, this month is the HIA-LI trade show that we have been promoted all together, and we'll be also talking about what else is coming. Haley, you like to let us know what is new?
Sure. Thank you so much, Kevin. So hello, everyone. My name is Hallie. For those of you I don't know, I'm the event planner with the HIA. So as you can see on the screen, we do have our 34th annual trade show that is coming up on May 26th. So very, very soon. We're very excited about it. This year, what makes it a little bit special is we are really highlighting manufacturers this year. We're going to be having a manufacturing pavilion, as well as multiple manufacturing-based seminars happening throughout the day. So we're very, very excited to have everybody involved. We do still have a few booths left. I believe we have about 6 or 7 booths. So if you haven't gotten a booth yet and you are looking to get one, I definitely recommend reaching out to us this week so we can get you all set up. If you aren't interested in getting a booth, we still encourage you to come walk the floor, definitely pre-register to avoid a $10 walk-in fee at the door. And just by walking the floor, you still can participate in all of our complimentary seminars throughout the day. I'm sure that Ron is going to want to touch on some more details about the trade show. But again, we would love to see everybody there. And then in addition to the trade show, we actually have our job fair coming up on June 16th. So it is going to be a job fair as well as our scholarship program. So any HIA member who has a child that is graduating and potentially attending a Long Island-based college is eligible to apply for this scholarship. It's really great. Again, it is specific to parents of students that are attending a school on Long Island. So if you have a student that's graduating soon, or if somebody in your office does, please reach out to us. We'd love to give you the application, and we can hopefully, help your child out with attending school. And then in addition to that, during the same day, we will also be having a job fair. So another great opportunity to get your business out there. I know everybody's looking for employers right now. So yeah, definitely reach out to myself if you are interested in attending either of those events. And then of course, we have Robert Isaacson on the phone right now from Bank of America. We just want to thank them for sponsoring this manufacturing committee meeting.
Great, Hallie, thank you. And we're very excited about being the sponsor of the manufacturing committee meetings this year. I think many of you may know who I am, Bob Isaacson. I'm a market exec for our business banking team on Long Island. And certainly I think all are aware of Bank of America's presence on Long Island. We view manufacturing as key to the success of Long Island and are very active in helping our clients who are in this segment to be successful, whether it's through our traditional banking services or our partnership with our Merrill and private banking investment partners who can help individual owners and their employees find financial success. So we look forward to being a participant and look forward to hearing about this program today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Robert, for being with us, and thank you for the sponsorship. We much appreciate it. And I'm glad you also joined us. Ron, if you would like to share any of your thoughts, ideas, please feel free.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I'd like to thank Bob and Bank of America for sponsoring our committee this year. I am a Bank of America client, and I'm also a Merrill Lynch client. So have had decades of great service from Bank of America. So we thank you that. I'm super excited about the manufacturing automation career job fair coming up. It's part of the trade show coming up on the 26th. We have some pretty high profile manufacturers here in Long Island that are going to be joining us. A&Z Pharmaceutical, Contract Pharmacol, Orlicon Metco, Designatronics, Turo Metals. There's a bunch of them. So it should be a great show. Hope to see lots of people out there coming to join us. And also, the other exciting thing going on is manufacturers are doing a lot of collaboration with local school systems. So I know, there's been a complaint for a lot of years about, hey, the students don't know about the great careers in manufacturing. So part of the show this year is going to be promoting manufacturing, making those connections between manufacturers and students. And there's going to be job seekers. Rosalie Drago over at Suffolk County DOL is going to be sending job seekers to the show as well. I know, the biggest problem for manufacturers, as well as most businesses, they just can't find people, right? So multifaceted, great show coming up on the 26th. I hope to see everybody there. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ron. Yes, definitely. We are excited for the trade show. Looking forward to seeing our colleagues, friends, HIA-LI community, making connections and learning what is coming up next in the manufacturing technology. So it's going to be a pretty good environment for making new contacts, for seeing what is in the marketplace, and also having new connections in the HIA-LI community. So definitely we are looking forward to it. Great. So we'll be talking about the trade show, and that is our most important subject this month. So we'll be promoting it, and we'll be inviting manufacturers, businesses, as well as schools, just like Ron mentioned. So definitely we are looking forward to it. All right. So let's focus on the subject matter today: cybersecurity and ISO 27001. As we all know, cybersecurity is a risk, and it is happening nowadays as for our manufacturing activities and business activities. Hacking is, we get the news from different places, nationally and internationally. So cybersecurity is important. We all have risks in terms of cybersecurity that we need to think about, we need to consider, we need to take actions to make sure we have proper measures in place So that is what we like to talk about today, how we can protect our company, how we can protect our data, information, how we can train our employees for that purpose, and how we can be ready in that sense to defend our company, defend our data and information. So for that, we have a panel, and today we'll be talking about these two subjects in terms of cybersecurity and in terms of ISO 27001. So there are solutions in the marketplace. We have options, and we like to know what they are and what we can basically implement to make sure we have a safe and secure work environment in terms of keeping our data safe and information safe. In a way, there are trade secrets. In a way, they are very important as for our company, as for our region, our country. So in that sense, we have to make sure we do what is necessary. So for that, we have Nerio Rivera from IMSM USA Incorporated. They are ISO specialists, and they've been in ISO 27001 compliance field for a very long time. They're active in US, they're active in also global markets as well. So Nerio is with us. We also have James Donnell from TechWorks Consulting, also from our HIA-LI community, from our tech committee, Tech for Business committee, that we work very close, and they always support our manufacturing committee, especially for technology and technology trends in the marketplace. So we'll hear from both panelists, both experts. As a start, I'd like to invite Nerio to our virtual stage. Nerio has been preparing for the ISO 27001 subject, and as I said, they are experts in this field. We have a lot to learn from them. So Nerio, why don't you take over the screen and get started?
All right, thank you so much for that introduction, Kevin. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so thank you everyone again. I'm going to keep this short and sweet for everyone. We could talk for hours about ISO standards like 27001. And today we're going to kind of focus on a little high level. The agenda, as you can see, we're just going to try to understand, what is ISO 27001? How does it play into mitigating risk? And then I want to compare it briefly to a couple other frameworks like NIST and SOC 2, and then just talk about a few resources. So we have ISO 27001. What is it? So as you can see, it's the ultimate benchmark for businesses to establish, implement, operate, monitor, review, maintain, and continually improve an information security management system. So what does that mean? Essentially, what ISO 27001 is meant to do is it demonstrates a corporate due diligence. It promotes compliance with regulatory and contractual requirements regarding data security, privacy, and IT governance. And there are other benefits as well. So as you can see here, also helps maintain compliance with European regulations. But in addition to that, is creating a culture of security and continual improvement. Improve competitive edge, and at the end of the day, win more contracts. Improve, helping your bottom line, which is really the ROI at the end of the day. So now, as you can see, it's suitable for businesses of all sizes. What's beautiful about ISO 27001 and ISO standards in general is that they are agnostic in terms of your industry, size of the organization. So it could really be applied to anyone. And in addition, as other cybersecurity experts will tell you, small businesses are targeted regularly. Because they're usually a gateway into those larger businesses, which are the assets they're really targeting. And they're banking on these small companies to not have some of these security procedures in place, right? So how does ISO 27001 mitigate risk? So you could see a few examples there on your screen, establishing and maintaining criteria. If you notice, identifying these different risks, right? I like to think of ISO 27001 almost as an insurance policy, because you're really just protecting your business from these breaches, right? You're kind of trying to do the front end work of having that culture of security to really limit or not. We try, eliminating is very difficult, but to substantially limit any type of exposure. So you'll notice also in here, you talk about, establishing criteria, identifying risks, identifying stakeholders. The mantra of ISO is really plan, do, check, act. That's how we operate. So, establishing that criteria, identifying the different risks, identifying these different pieces are all about that planning piece. So we develop a plan, and then we have to do according to that plan. And then once we've done according to that plan, we have to check to make sure that we have done according to plan. And then we act on any non-conformities and we take corrective action. So that is ISO in a nutshell. So NIST, which I know is gaining more traction. I just wanted to do a little comparison between ISO and 27001 and NIST. And what we find is they both have really positive aspects to them. So they both require senior management support, continual improvement process, and a risk-based approach, which they both include. It's very important to have management, everyone from the top of the company down to the bottom in security. It really is everyone's responsibility. The couple of big differences is the fact that ISO 27001 includes third-party verification. NIST is actually self-attested. So in instances where, you might have a contract where they want to see an impartial, unbiased third party actually come in there to verify your process, ISO does take care of that, and the international recognition aspect of it. NIST is designed essentially for the United States, whereas ISO is usually recognized worldwide. So there's that. The good news is if you've completed ISO 27001, you're about 60% of the way there for NIST, which is great, especially for situations where you might need both. And as just an example, an overlap area related is an area of overlap is, for example, having an asset register, asset responsibility, asset management. So that's a part of it. And then as far as differences, you want to just recognize that NIST has a little bit more of a technical aspect to it. ISO 27001 is really your people process. So it's not as much the technical side as much as it is your people's understanding of the security framework, right? And then we have SOC type 2. Which we know comes up a lot. So they're both designed to instill trust, which is really the big thing, right? With these certifications, it instills trust with your clients and you're protecting their data. But some of these differences we see are in information security on an ongoing basis, which is what ISO provides. It's a difference in scope. So ISO is actually focusing on continual security, continual improvement. And acting upon any nonconformities, and again, the international recognition side. In many cases, we've seen, you could satisfy contracts that require SOC 2 with ISO 27001 certification. Another big difference is the fact that SOC 2 is actually audited by a CPA firm. Typically by the hour, which is not the way we do it. ISO standards are audited by a certifying body, right? So that is another main difference. And that's really it. I just wanted to point you to a couple of resources. Our website is I think really has some great information, especially in our section under news. Our marketing team works together with our internal experts to put these together and really kind of paint the picture for how these standards help your business and give you some real life examples and case studies. And with that, I would like to thank you, and I will pass it back over to Kevin.
Nerio, thank you very much. Much appreciated. We also get some questions. I'm getting some questions at the same time. So for example, one of them maybe we'll have the Q&A session at the end, but some of them, some of the questions about which one to choose and which one to basically implement in our company. That is one of the questions that I see. Also, another one is talking about change management. Having these standards in place, how to train employees, how to motivate them as for the next steps. It also looks like it's also a challenge as to get employees, in a way, they buy in and they basically also work with the management. That's another question that I see in the box here. We can address those during the Q&A session if that's okay. Yeah, I have more questions coming. So great. So that's we'll definitely talk about those. Perfect. Nerio, thank you so much. And please stay with us so we can address the questions all together if that's all right. As next chapter of our presentation, I'd like to invite James Donnell from TechWorks to our virtual stage. He joined us. So let's learn about the technical aspects of cybersecurity and how we can actually take actions as to make sure we are ready as for protecting our data, our operations in this digital world. James, good morning. Let me see if you can hear me.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Perfect. Yes, sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you for joining us. So James is he's with TechWorks Consulting. He's the senior pre-sales consultant manager at the company, and Team TechWorks and James always helpful for us to learn about the latest about manufacturing technologies and cybersecurity in general. So today I'm sure we have a lot to learn from James. James, welcome to our committee meeting. And
thank you.
The floor is yours. Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, looks great.
Okay.
We can also see your webcam. It also looks good. So
okay.
All set.
Good.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks for having me here today. Kind of cybersecurity is kind of an interesting topic these days. Everybody wants to kind of talk about where we're at, where we're going, how to become a cyber expert, and there's a lot of different programs out there to be cognizant about. But today, I think from a business perspective, we're almost better. And for some of you older people, you might recognize the picture of this gentleman in this slide. It's Colombo, and Colombo was kind of noted for taking a somewhat simplistic, interesting path to getting to the facts, and that's kind of what I thought we might take an approach today, because cybersecurity, as we know it and as it's evolving, kind of still has its roots in some very basics that tend to get lost in the package. So without too much further ado, cybersecurity is a growing concern. In 2020, cybercrime cost the world $1 trillion. It rose to $6 trillion in 2021, and it's projected to continue to grow. All right. Every 60 seconds, $17,700 is said is lost because of a phishing attack. 83% of the organizations around the world were targets of phishing attacks in 2021. And probably most people in this audience have also, if not fallen victim to it, at least been tried to be attacked. Phishing attempts continue to increase by leaps and bounds. And from a year ago, it's up almost 667%. So people may say, well, why is all of this stuff happening? And what's the thing? 80% of all security incidents revolve around, this is an FBI statistic, revolve around phishing attacks. And because phishing attacks are very simple, they don't have to be super sophisticated. And in a lot of cases, they're only directed at getting information, not actually hacking. So the crime itself is relatively simple. Go out, see what information you can steal, put it on the dark web and sell it. It's as simple as that. And then as you go up the chain, people collect more and more information, match it up to information that's available. And before you know it, you have a pretty good profile of who your target is. 97% of the population, according to the FBI, says they cannot recognize a phishing scam. So that means the average employee, while they're undergoing their day-to-day business and opening up emails and everything, because they're in such a hurry, even though we try to train them, they don't recognize that they're part of a scam. All right, that's key. So that gets to the very basics of, if all the people that have email, and almost everybody in every company has an email address, and they all get some sort of email, if they're the targets, they're the lowest hanging fruit, then that would figure that some of the defense should be directed towards them. Security breaches, which lead to future serious attacks, are 22%. So you say, what does that mean? Well, they take information that may have been stolen from a small company and they match it up to like the major Aetna breach or the major security breaches. And then all of a sudden they've got more information. They got 2/3 of the way into a company. Now they look at public information. They match that information to who's the CFO. Wow. Look at these sites that give you backgrounds on companies. What's their scheme? If everybody in the company has first initial dot last name at that company, and everybody's got the same thing, well, now they've got a pretty good idea of what the email address of that person is. And if they can match some of that to some of the information, it becomes much easier for them to hack. All right. 30% of all the phishing emails which are just sent out are the ones that get open. So again, like I said, many companies get exposed to it. Those that use tools to some extent have some of those things squashed. There are many different tools that are available to try. There's ATP, there's whitelisting, there's many security tools that are out there, but it still comes down to, if it's not known in the past and somebody uses a new flavor of it, there's a good chance people are going to click on it. In 2021, scammers took over $100,000 with a Twitter phishing attack, and that Twitter phishing attack only lasted 2 hours. So that's really low-hanging fruit from people on Twitter alone. Some cyber facts. It can take a company up to 6 months to detect the breach. And there's an attack occurring basically every 39 seconds. The cost of breaches in the United States alone was $3.86 million. And since COVID-19 occurred, the FBI reported a 300% increase in cyber crimes. Now, why is that sobering? Because the way we did business and the digital transformation, which changed a lot of the way we all do business, dictates that a lot of our people are now remote. And because those people are remote, they're operating in a different way. And because they're operating in a different way, what does that mean? Well, that means they're using VPNs, they're using tunnels, they're using different methods to access, and not all the security that they have in their homes, or not all of them have routers, not all of them are able to work. So what does that mean? How does it come down to you? How does this affect you directly? So what I'd like you to do is kind of write down some answers as we go through the next question, and we're going to come and revisit it in a little later in the presentation. So first off, how big is your company? Asset size, how big do you think you are? You consider yourself a big company, a medium size, a small company? How many people do you have employed? And how many people have emails? Another question for everybody to consider. And just pen these answers down. There's no right or wrong answer, obviously. If your files were locked down, how much would you be willing to pay to get your data back? If you had no backup, you got hit with ransomware or something like that, what is that information worth to you? And then the last question is, how much do you think you're spending on security tools, cyber training, etc. right now? Again, just taking a look. So take a look at your own business, how you run it, what's going on, where do you think you stand today? And as we go through this presentation, we're going to take a look at what people think we should be. So anyone that's subject to some of the compliance needs and some of the things that were discussed earlier today, notice that everybody needs cyber insurance, but you notice that it's getting harder and harder to get cyber insurance. No longer was it just something the insurance company threw into your package because they never collected. All right. You need now to have a formal cyber program in place in order to receive cyber insurance. You have to be practicing at the very minimum certain cyber security practices, such as multi-factor authentication, such as DNA, formal programs to teach phishing, to have your employees recognize, formal certifications that your IT provider is also following these things. How many of you have received questionnaires from your insurance broker when you went out to try and get cyber insurance? Chances are everyone has, because there's a good chance that without those questionnaires being filled out, they weren't going to renew your policy. Why? Why did this change? Basically, human error accounts for 95% of the data breaches, according to a report by IBM. In the past, technology was viewed as a tool. It wasn't a key strategy to be employed. It was kind of a necessary evil, a burden. So again, we ask all of you right now, how do you use technology? How much money and time do you spend on cyber training? How many people allow their employees access to social media while they're at work? I'm not talking about marketing departments. I'm talking about your regular workers. Again, because a simple click, a simple comment, anything like that can lead to a problem. For all the sophisticated tools and everything else that's out there, all right, the weakest link still remains to be the human. And humans have a tendency when they're distracted to not pay attention and to click on what's not. Ransomware has attacked 3 out of 4 organizations worldwide, all right, to varying extents. 60% of targeted companies that have their ransomware secured where it actually locks their files go out of business within 6 months of a breach. The USA suffers from the most ransomware of all the places in the world, with 18.2% of attacks. All right, that goes up almost 61% from the year to year. And why? Because the bad guys have learned that small to mid-sized businesses don't spend the same amount as the major corporations, and they become a much easier breeding ground. All they need to do is hack 1 or 2 big organizations a year, get that information, and then match it to all the information that they get out of the smaller companies. All right, it's become a strategy to them. All right, and as a strategy, it works because there's no real way to prevent it short of training and using security tools. The average amount of monthly ransomware transactions last year was $102.3 million. That's staggering when you think about it. Again, think about what you've invested, how much your company is worth, and what ransomware can mean to you. All right. We talked a little bit about social media access. 160,000 Facebook accounts are compromised each day. Now you may think, well, what does Facebook have to do with anything? Well, phishing leads the way, but database leaks, compromise attacks, they're all closing the gap. And any information people glean from Facebook can be matched to other databases. And Facebook is the easiest place to gain information on people because it's voluntary. People are putting up pictures of their families. People are putting up pictures of their jobs. People are showing their kids. So you get, again, a fuller picture of what's going on. So has cyber attacks had any effect on you? Have you had any incidences where it's hit you directly or indirectly? Do you feel your company is a target? Do you feel that you're threatened at all? Do you feel your policies and procedures are mature enough to cause you not to feel the effects of cyber and cyber crime? Personal answer, each one of you will probably have a different one, but the question here remains, how prepared are you in the event of a cyber crime? Are you following old practices? Again, I asked, have anybody here suffered the effects? I know our company has. I'm pretty sure most of you have in some way, shape, or form. The supply chain has been more than affected. Getting information, getting cars, getting chips for cars, getting computer equipment, getting information. Cyber chains are more than 97% of the companies surveyed have been affected by a cybersecurity breach in their supply chain alone. And then you look at, how do you back up your key data? Are you still using USB keys? Are you still using manual efforts? Do you back up when you think about it once a week as opposed to daily? Is it an automatic thing, or does somebody have to make a physical decision? And do you ever test those backups? Cyber goes on and on and on. And really, you can be sick of it. I mean, it's like a train or a car that comes roaring down the road, and you hear about it from a compliance perspective, you hear about it from supply chain, you hear about it. So what do you do? How do you affect it? And then, oh, there comes cybersecurity and COVID-19. So how do you keep your remote workforce safe? How do you make it work better? How do you deal with cyber criminals who send attachments and phishing links? The pandemic has had a detrimental effect. And of all the people that have suffered phishing scams in the past 2 years since COVID started, better than 47% of those individuals have been affected when they worked remotely. Now, part of that is because they click on something and they don't think anything's happening. But meanwhile, that releases an agent that sits on your computer dormant and just seeks out information, and then at some predetermined point starts to send the information that's leaked out to whoever implanted it. And if you're sitting at home on a computer and it's not monitored on a network and there's no tools, you're never going to know what happened. There are other cases where people are basically, they know they clicked on it and then they don't know what to do. And they don't know who to call, and they know they did something wrong, and they're afraid to say anything, so they don't. There are so many malicious links that are deployed on a daily basis, it's hard to keep up with them. So, who's at fault? How do you make this kind of go away or get better tested? Again, according to University of Maryland, 77% of businesses lack an incident response plan. Again, look at yourself. If your company had somebody click on a link they suspect was a phishing, how would you respond to it? Is somebody in charge? Is there a formal procedure to go about it? When your company does backups, how do you protect your company's key data? Are there backups for them, and are they protected from cyber attacks? Or is it easy for someone to get to those folders? Usually if it's easy and convenient for you, it's easy and convenient for the bad guys. Small businesses consisting of 1 to 250 employees are most at risk for receiving these malicious emails. Does that fit you? The overall loss a company incurs due to a data breach right now is on average $3.92 million. Could your company withstand that? Is that something that is even survivable for each of us? All answers that should have an impact on some decisions you make as you go forward and you figure out how to protect yourselves. An interesting statistic the FBI came out was the cost of cybersecurity per employee over the last years has been rising. In 2019, it was $2,691 per employee to spend for cybersecurity. In 2022, it's estimated that by the end of the year, it will be up to $3,700 per employee. So $3,700 per employee times 100 employees gets pretty expensive. So this is a serious drain, not only on earnings, but also on doing business, because you got to protect yourselves and you got to come up with smart ways to do it with spending less money. 50% of large companies, more than 10,000 employees, spend upwards of $1 million a year. 6 out of 10 small businesses shut down after suffering a security breach because they simply can't afford the tools necessary to keep it. So what does it all mean? It's not if you're going to get attacked, but when. And then based on when you're attacked, what do you have in place to survive it or to at least prevent it in its early stages? All right. It's kind of a, do you actively protect your folder structures? Do you have automated backups? Do you utilize a business continuity solution? Something that in the event there was a ransomware, you can roll back to an earlier version and recreate your business. So instead of losing all your data, maybe you lose an hour or two of your data. Do you actually think about this? Is somebody in charge of protecting your company's data? Or is it just a foregone conclusion? If it's not what, it's going to be when. And if it's not when, it's going to be who. So what are you waiting for? If it's not you that's going to take the step to exercise these strategies, who in your company will? There are many tools available in many different price points to assist you in cyber defense. But the reality of the situation is there is no one fix-it for anybody. It's a layered approach. You need to layer in a number of strategies and a number of products that will allow you to adequately protect your company. So it could be secure backups. It could be secure filtering. It could be zero tolerance for anything that's not pre-approved. There are many different strategies, many different tools available for you. I do not want to try and sit here and say that one size fits all, because it doesn't, but there are some basics you need to do. All right. If you're not comfortable with what you're doing today, then the best thing to do is speak to people, to incorporate a defense, find out what you feel you're weakest at, and then, give us a call or a company like us so we can help you. That's really all we have to go over today, because there is no one answer for everybody. And that concludes.
I appreciate it. Let me take over the screen and we can have our questions. Well, that was actually a very informative presentation, much appreciated. And we have questions that I have been receiving in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of ISO 27001. So let's talk about those as well. By the way, for our attendees, also we are recording this session. We have our panelist contact information on the screen, so you can see it on the slide. So if you like to continue this conversation, you can stay in touch with them. You can ask your questions after this meeting as well. So one of the questions that I actually received is, I think, Mary, it's for you, the one that I mentioned earlier. So ISO 27001 versus SOC compliance, for example? So which one to choose, which one, how to make the decision?
So that's a good question. And it really is situational. So whether you're talking about ISO or SOC or ISO or NIST or other security frameworks, I mean, depending on the RFP, you're going for, they might specify one or the other. But, it really is situational. So for example, do you have clients to satisfy in Europe, or if in that situation, you might want to go for ISO. If it's remember SOC, I believe, has a focus on the financial security aspect of it too. So, if that's a priority, that might be a priority for the particular vendor. So it depends. It's situational. What we do know is that ISO 27001 is all encompassing. So typically, when you have ISO 27001 implemented, there is overlap with other systems in the controls that are included in ISO.
So it depends on what is required in the market from the clients.
Exactly.
Another question is, and also I'll ask that I think to Jim as well in a way. So how to train and motivate employees for cybersecurity, especially in terms of, we are working remotely. Sometimes we are working on site, it's getting less and less. There is hybrid work settings, for example. So what would you say from your point of view, Mario, in terms of training and motivating employees?
Yeah, so I mean, this has been a really big push for us in the past few months, because the last thing you want to do when implementing a security framework like ISO, right, is just to let it sit on the shelf. I mean, it's you might satisfy a contract or something, but it's not really doing anything for your company, to improve it overall if you're not actually implementing it, using it, auditing the process. So really the best thing you can do is use it, according to plan. So the other thing you can do is I know one way that IMSM supports is we do provide manager awareness trainings. That's a big piece of it, the trainings, the regular auditing, implementing tools to maintain conformity like QDMS software, I think is very important. Because I mean, the idea is that, like I mentioned before, everyone has to get involved in the process. So really, management has to kind of lead the way as an example, and that does tend to trickle down and create that culture for people to have it on top of mind when they get that funny email. Like I've gotten, like I'm sure plenty of anyone who's worked for larger companies has gone before, oh, hey, this is your boss, looking for, I need you to call me quickly. I need you to send me this information or this number. It's when you create that culture, it's something that will it'll create an automatic reaction. So.
Yeah, what we do also is we offer training to companies, and then reinforce that training. So we may have like management training, and then maybe second level down training classes that kind of happen on a quarterly basis, and then periodically we'll send out predetermined phishing campaigns to see, with reports that say, hey, you have, you've got 37 employees, 15 clicked on the link. So I think you might want to reinforce your training.
So that's actually James, that's a great point. And so those are things that are involved in the process too, is testing your employees too, right? Kind of seeing where their awareness is. So that's a big piece of it. So I love everything you talked about, because it actually validates the point of implementing something like ISO.
Hey, Kevin, this is Bob. Just to jump in before the next question,
Sure.
What I've heard here rings very true to me. The bank has great fraud prevention capabilities in our treasury suite, and we try to train our clients to use them correctly and be vigilant. But it all comes down to individuals making mistakes and giving someone their login information. And you think it doesn't happen, but it does, and it happens all the time, that companies are under attack to get private information. So I really, can't endorse enough here what folks have said, to be vigilant and to train your associates. We get trained every year. We get what Jim just talked about. We get emails that are internally generated. If you don't identify it as a phish, you get sent back to training. And it's just an everyday occurrence, and you need to be super vigilant on it.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Bob. Yes, it's critical, right? It's part of our life nowadays. We all gotta pay attention, and training is the key. That is, I think, the bottom line here, which is very important. Actually, another question that we also received, which also actually addressed to the earlier comments. So how often should we review cybersecurity policies? What should be the ideal frequency? How periodically should we review our cybersecurity policy and procedures? I must say, from what I see from the question that we received. Nerio, what do you think?
So one thing that's very important, I think, with any standard, especially with 27001, is having an internal auditor, having somebody designated with that responsibility. And the frequency of audits depends, right? Because it really is, these are things that are tailored to your organization. So it might make sense to audit every month. It might make sense to audit every quarter. The ISO certificate itself, they're good for 3 years, but they require annual surveillances. So, and they're recertified every 3 years. So, at least annually, it's something you have to take a look at. But again, really, it depends on your internal process.
James, what would you say in terms of the policies?
Kind of the same. You have to look at it at least as an organization from an auditing perspective, at least once a year. I would also say from an IT perspective, you probably want to do it twice a year, because over the course of a year, things have happen to change. You change tools out. Somebody brings on a new client, new product, things like that didn't exist when you first looked at it. So you don't want I know in our case, you don't want the auditor to be the guy to bring it to your attention that, hey, you got this new product in there, it kind of falls outside the boundary. So we try to catch that ourselves. So we would look at it at least twice a year. Or if we think something is up when we're introducing a new product, then we'll take a look at it right at that point. But minimum of twice a year with, mandatory annual. And that's going to become more mandatory as well as, like I touched on, cybersecurity insurance and things like that. That's going to become part of a mandate where you're going to have to, review it and present it eventually.
Yeah, I mean, the way maybe we should all look at it is actually the data that we have commercially as manufacturers or as business professionals, for example. In a way, that's a national treasure, really, because what we do is really, stored on our servers, on our computers, on our systems in a way. And, there's a lot of valuable information. No wonder, they try to hack in a way. There is commercial information, there's financial.
And the weak link is always going to be the human being, because you're doing 15 things at once. You're not paying attention. You're trying to meet a deadline, or you're trying to get out the door, or whatever the case is, and you accidentally click, or you read only half the email. It seems legit. Yeah, my boss is over here. He is out of the office, and that's what happens.
Yes. So, well, in terms of how to learn about the latest trends, that's another question that I received, for example. So, things evolve, right? So, there are different hackings going on. There are lessons, learned in a way that, what happened, what was the, issue, what was the oversight, and so on. So, in terms of like the latest cybersecurity trends, what may be the right resources to, like review or read or, periodically visit, would you say? Let's just start from the IT point of view, Jim, in terms of like, what should we just pay attention? Is it like the press only, or is there another top source?
The latest trends are, like I mentioned earlier, using a layered approach, because no one tool by itself, no one thing is going to stop it. But you want to do some basics. You want to make sure there's ground level training at the lowest level of your organization. If you're going to give that person an email, even if they're an intern, then they should take the training. All right. There should be some type of dual factor authentication. All right. Because you want to identify that the person that is using that device is the person they say they are. That's right off the bat. If they're working remotely, you want to have a second mechanism in place that says that person is who they say they are. So maybe it's not just enough to have the credentials to the VPN, but they have to sign on a second time. So, and it has to be different credentials. So this way you can not only validate the person who's on that other end of the computer knows, but there's also a certain amount of additional security that's in place that you can say with reasonableness that they're are legit. Then there's different tools that you put to whitelist certain email addresses, automatic threat protection. There's a lot of tools that are out there, a lot of sales things. They all get used in combination. They're kind of based on what your environment looks like, which ones would work the best for your environment. But there's a lot of things out there, but no one thing alone. It's kind of a combination of things. Years ago they came out with, if you have a car and you put an alarm in it, that's going to stop stolen cars. Well, that didn't last too long, but it was a deterrent, and that's what you want to do, because the more deterrents you have, the less likely they are to go after you, because there's 15 other guys that don't have those deterrents. It'll be that much easier.
Makes sense. Nerio, what is your take on this?
I think James said it best. From an ISO perspective, the point is the ongoing, so not just maintaining it, but it's also improvement. At the end of the day, the ultimate stakeholder that you're satisfying with ISO is the customer, right? So always kind of staying on top of things like local regulations or any changes, that is part of the auditing process. So the other thing that you're doing when you're checking to see how well you're conforming to the process is seeing what changes have been made, regulatory changes, legal changes, anything that's changed within the organization. So those are all things that management, leadership is going to have to take a look at anyway. So yeah, I totally agree.
I think that's one of the advantages of ISO in a way, like motivates companies in a way for continuous improvement. You keep reviewing, you keep talking to your customers, clients, stakeholders to find ways to improve the business process. So I think it's exciting. So just to address a question, we are recording this session and we'll be sending the recording as well to our attendees. It will also be available on the HIA-LI website, just so you know. Another note, for example, from Bob Harrison. Good morning, Bob. So Stony Brook IT sends test phishing emails as part of security, and they are very challenging to sort out sometimes. So yeah, that's also an important piece of information, like testing, right? In a way that, how the current systems are working, how they're holding up. In that sense, these tests are also critical. So another question, looks like an IT question, Jim. So does any cybersecurity software have the feature for manufacturers to use, like manufacturer, oriented cybersecurity tool? Is there such tool available, or like is something that's
there are tools available for different type of operations, like warehousing and things like that are designed. Is the tool specific to manufacturing? The tools are specific more to the type of attack and the type of technology in use, more than they are for, I think, designed for an industry. But yes, if we were talking to a manufacturer, we would have a certain set of tools that we would go in and kind of, I don't want to say to use the word vet, but we'd have to take a look at what the environment is that they're working, how old the current systems are that they're utilizing. Sometimes people use legacy systems that, the new tools won't work on. So you have to kind of create a different environment for that to work on. And if they're up to date and they're really modern, yeah, then they're just plug-in tools. So there are many tools to accomplish what needs to be done. It really has to, you got to take a look at email being the easiest way. Obviously there's a ton of tools, but from a perspective of, how a business does particular work, you'd have to look at each business and then what their platforms are and then recommend tools based on that. I don't want to say they're geared to, a tool that works for manufacturing may also work for an aircraft line or something like that, or, things that work for accounting may not necessarily be the best solution for somebody that's, working in another division. Sometimes different divisions of different companies use different tools to accomplish the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jim. Nerio, I get questions. Actually, you addressed it earlier, but some of our attendees joined a little later than after we started. So, would you please clarify the difference between ISO 9001 and ISO 27001 for us briefly? I know you addressed it in your presentation, just to just for our latest attendees.
Yes, absolutely. So ISO 9001 is the QMS, the quality management system. So really all the other standards are piggybacking, built upon the 9000 family. So there's overlap. You're going to find awareness of controls in 9001 within ISO 27001. So the difference is really just more the focus on the information security management system aspect of it. So it's not that you won't find elements of 9001 in there, they're included, but it's just that there's a lot more in additional to focus on the ISMS.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Neri.
Sure.
Okay, looks like we addressed all the questions. Before we end our meeting, is there any final remarks, thoughts that our panelists would like to share? Jim, anything that you like to share as final thoughts, ideas, remarks?
Basically, it all comes down to what makes sense for each individual business. The threats aren't going to go away. By no stretch of the imagination will I ever tell somebody, you got to spend this much money, even though the government average says you got to spend $3,000 per employee. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to, but you have to spend what's right for your business to keep your business, protected, and also to keep your business competitive. And if you have compliance requirements, whether they be NIST or CMMC or ISO or anything else, you would rather be positioned yourself now with the right tools and be protected than have somebody come back to you later and tell you what you need to do. Because, and I know in the case of CMMC and in NIST, at some point there, if you're not especially a lot of the subcontractors, if you're not compliant with the people you're supplying services for, they'll drop you because the government won't allow you to continue to work. So it's better to start addressing things now than it is when it's too late.
Yes, very important. Thank you, Jim. Nerio, any final thoughts from your side? Any final remarks that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything we're talking about today, I like to look at these things, having the security aspect of your business, implementing these things. These are all really, like, I think of them as insurance policies at the end of the day, right? Because I mean, think about it. I mean, even myself, I'm sure, Jim, you've seen tons of breaches where you see, I mean, why it puts these guys out of business. I mean, can a small business really handle, I mean, the thousands and thousands of dollars that it hits, just even like a tiny CPA firm, which I've seen, and this is, I've seen personal examples where, you talk to them and they know they have to do it. They understand it's an issue. It just keeps getting put on the back burner. Next thing you know, you have a ransomware attack and you're paying lawyers every hour, I mean, thousands of dollars to now remediate the stuff, right? When it would have been a lot easier to just do the work on the front end, have these systems in place, have consultants to help you, implement the tools you need and know how to use them. So I think it's really important. I mean, just the idea that, people thinking like, oh, it's not going to happen to me. The world just doesn't work that way anymore. I mean, you can see the numbers like that Jim put up. I mean, it's just a matter of when. So yeah, I mean, definitely, protect your business, protect your intellectual property, and definitely start looking into these processes for improvement.
I mean, quite honestly, the reason why I put those numbers there is because I could tell you everything till I'm blue in the face. As Canary, it won't make a difference. I mean,
it's
you're
true.
Gonna say, yeah, it's two guys up there talking, and they're going to try and talk about what they can do and everything else. At the end of the day, these are the facts. These are the things that independent people are saying. Here's the numbers. You want to roll the dice and say it's not going to affect you one day? That's your prerogative. That's fine. But sooner or later, luck runs out.
That's it. And on that topic of, I mean, and you could see yourself just in cybersecurity premiums, how much they've shot up, yep. Right? So, the proof is in the pudding.
Very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it for the final share and final thoughts. Great. As I mentioned, we'll keep talking about trade show because it's coming up, and it is on May 26th. So we are excited I know you are excited, and we are definitely looking forward to seeing you. Any final thoughts on this run that you'd like to share in terms of the trade show?
Yeah, no, thank you, Kevin. A great presentation, gent. Appreciate your the information. I know, especially for the aerospace defense guys, you know, cyber's a big deal. The Defense Department is really clamping down on that. Of course, you know, if they're doing business with the Lockheeds and the Boeings and Northrop Grumman's, they really have to get their act together with CMMC and some of the other requirements in the aerospace area. Anyways, back to the trade show. Yeah, we're really excited about
Yes.
this trade show coming up. You know, we've got a great lineup of manufacturers, you know, so for the manufacturers themselves, it's a chance to reach out and meet job seekers that are going to be coming through the show, as well as start building that talent pipeline. You know, for too many years, we've been just kind of relying on, you know, the person that we had who is the tool and die maker, that, you know, those lost arts that are just retiring out. So we gotta get that back into the schools. And there's some great collaboration going on between, you know, CPI Aero and West Islip, with Orlicon Metco and BOCES, with Longwood High School and East West. So really exciting things going on. Love to see everybody come to the show and take advantage of the great activities going on there. And let's spread the word and let, you know, invite the parents, the teachers, the students, everybody to come to the show. Let's pack the house and let them know about the high-paying, great careers, exciting careers in manufacturing. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you very much. Let's take the house. I like this. Yes, almost time. Sounds good. Again, thank you so much for our panelists today. Nerio, thank you very much for informative presentation. James, as always, thank you so much for the educational presentation. Much appreciated for your time, for your insights. Also, we thank also our sponsor, Bank of America. Bob, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. And we are definitely looking forward to seeing you on May 26th at trade show, HIA-LI trade show. We are excited. Just like Ron mentioned, let's pick the house, let's get together. It's long overdue, and we are definitely looking forward to seeing you. I'd like to thank you for your time and thank you for your interest, and looking forward to seeing you at our coming manufacturing committee meetings. Thank you and have a nice day.
All right.
Be well, everybody. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you, everyone.